Hello, and welcome to my presentation on more music by Bonis, and in particular a piano piece called Phoebe, which is based on the Greek mythological character of the same name. To give you a little bit of background on the composer, she was born into a middle-class family in 1858 and later died in 1937. So she was roughly a contemporary of composers such as Debussy, Pierre, Fauré, and Saint-Saëns. She was accepted into the Paris Conservatory after being introduced to César Franck by some family friends. And by all accounts, she was quite successful at the conservatory, earning several awards. While at the conservatory, she also met and fell in love with a fellow student named Amédée Hetish, who was a singing student in her class. Now, her parents did not like this, and as a matter of fact, they hated it. So much to the disappointment of her teachers and peers, they pulled her out of the conservatory and forced her into an arranged marriage with a much older man. Now, at this point in her life, she sort of dedicated herself to becoming Madame d'Ormange, as she was known in circles, and she really embodied what it was to be a married woman. And as part of that, she tried to encapsulate piety and purity and virtue in all of her duties as Madame d'Ormange. And it was only later, when she rekindled her relationship with Hetish, that she really started to go back into composition, although she never really stopped. But around about 1909, 1910 is when things really started heating back up for Mel's compositional career. Also at that point, it's worth noting that she was brought into the Society of Musical Composers of Paris and actually became the secretary. And it's from that time period that this particular piece, Phoebe, was composed. Before we get into the music, I thought it would be helpful to give you a little brief rundown of the mythology behind the character of Phoebe. Now, Phoebe is just one name that this particular character went by. Most people would probably be more familiar with the name Selene, who was a Titan, so a mother of the gods. And Phoebe, or Selene, is associated with the moon. And in many stories, she's actually the personification of the moon. So she rode the chariot of the moon up into the sky every night, and that was her primary duty. A bit of speculation here, but I believe that this piece depicts the slow rise of the moon at night, its eventual apex, and then at the very end we get the set of the moon. Turning to the music, let's take a look at the form. Here, I've created a form chart for Phoebe. It is in a modified ternary form, or AB, A prime, with the A material repeating at the end. However, it is truncated, meaning it's slightly shortened. The theme 1 area, or the first A, has the primary theme moving through a number of different harmonic contexts, which will be discussed soon. It also has 2 small transitional episodes, which feature material that does not repeat anywhere else in the piece. The B section is largely improvisatory and lacks the thematic material from the A section. Parsimonious motion is readily available here, as each harmony moves into the next through very small changes of voices. And then finally, the A section returns. However, it is shortened, so we only have 1 rotation from the E diminished chord to the E minor 7 chord. Now that we've talked a little bit about the structure of the piece, I want us to listen. I don't want anything to affect your judgment prior to listening. However, I do want you to think about a few things. 1, think about what is the meter of the piece. I will tell you that Bonis does a number of things to obscure the meter and to make the music rather rhythmically vague. 2, think about what the underlying harmonies may be and how she treats various themes within the context of each harmony. Now that we've had a listen, I just want to point out a few things that I find interesting about this music. First is that meter, or lack of meter, or obscuring of the meter, however you want to think about it. Right from the beginning of the piece, Bonis is sort of setting us up to not really know what's happening, where the beats are, where a downbeat is, for example. These things are obscured by a number of things. First is the accompaniment, which doesn't follow a typical pattern. Typically, we would think of arpeggiated figures or something always having a downbeat, going up and then landing back on the downbeat, or a prominent beat. But here she gives us a very strange accompaniment figure that has 3.5 beats. So already off kilter, and we don't have really anything substantial to hang on to. So here's the accompaniment figure, and I'll count the beats so you can see what I'm talking about. 1, 2, 3. There's 4, but we don't get all the way through the half of 4 before the pattern resets. So the full pattern, 1, 2, 3. This particular pattern in the accompaniment actually takes 7 full bars of music before it fits again on beat 1. Another interesting thing that she does with this is that she has most of the primary themes beginning on beat 2. That's not always the case, but it also serves to throw off our sense of balance and make the rhythmic patterns a little more vague. Now let's talk about the harmony that Bonis uses. Just like with the vagaries of the rhythm, the harmony is also quite interesting in this piece. In the A section, the primary sonority is that of an E-flat Dorian mode, but with an A-flat pedal. And in particular, she's using this E-flat minor 7th chord. And this serves as the primary sound for most of the music. Now, within this mode, she uses this theme, which goes up a step. And one interesting thing I find about this particular thematic treatment is that each one of those statements ends on a member of the E-flat minor 7 chord. In addition to the use of modal harmony, she also uses octatonicism, which is the alternation of half steps and whole steps. The interesting thing about the octatonic scale is that if you try to create a triad on top of any tone, you get diminished triads. This allows a composer to take the music in any direction, almost on the turn of a dime. For example, with diminished chords, you can almost use every tone as a leading tone to another chord. This opening section also features parsimonious harmony, where various tones move by half steps to new chords. That's what happens here in this opening section. We have the E-flat minor 7, with the E-flat and G-flat moving to E natural and G to create the sonority. The parsimonious relationship between the E-flat minor 7 and the E fully diminished 7 allows for going back and forth between these two harmonies without really moving anywhere, so it creates an atmosphere of tranquility and calm. Another scale that Bonis makes use of is the whole tone scale. Now, just like with the octatonic scale, the whole tone scale is also a symmetrical scale, meaning there's nothing but whole tones in it. Now, similar to the octatonic scale, where you can use diminished triads to get to where you want to go as a composer, you can almost do the same thing here with the whole tone scale. For example, you can resolve on a triad built out of one of the members. Or in that case, resolving up a half step from B to C rather than going to the C sharp. Measure 20 features the only time the D flat major chord appears in this piece. So the only occurrence of what we would think of as being the tonic chord considering the key signature. And we arrive at this chord through parsimonious relationships. So we already have discussed the E flat minor 7. And that moves to A, and then going to D flat. So here you can see how the various voices are moving by half steps, but also retaining the D flat / C sharp. The B section of this piece combines modal harmony with parsimonious voice motion. For example, in bar 40, where we start with the B section, all of these chords move in the mode, which is based on A flat minor. And from here, we just change the B flat of the G flat major chord down to an A natural, and we get to F sharp minor. So by using modal harmony with parsimonious voice leading, the entire structure of the B section sounds like this. Parsimonious motion. And here we have a minor transition figure with an augmented chord. Return of the A flat pedal, which takes us back into the small recapitulation or the A prime final section. Another element of this piece that interests me is the economy of expression, and in particular how she uses small melodic fragments within a number of harmonic contexts. Now, we've already talked about the harmony in the piece, but the way she uses the same theme inside of different harmonic contexts is very interesting to me. So the original theme, which is modal, later comes back inside of an octatonic scale, and then the whole tone treatment. Here are a few examples of exactly what I'm talking about. So to sum up all of the harmonic treatment within this piece, we have modal harmony. That's with the A flat pedal. Then we we have octatonicism. And then we have whole tone scales. And a single occurrence of the tonic chord, which is parsimoniously related to A major, which is the preceding chord. Sort of a big Hollywood moment, which I think of as sort of the apex of the rise of the moon.